It's Dr. Julian Waterslench, and I'm the Program Manager of the Entrepreneurship major here at RMIT. And today I'm going to talk to you a bit about the new Bachelor of Business degree in general and specifically the Entrepreneurship major. And after me, we'll be joined by my colleague Simon, who'll talk about the new Bachelor of Enterprise and Innovation. All of these programs are world-renowned and allow students to work across a variety of disciplines to replicate real-world experiences that they'll need when they start their careers. Next slide. But before we go further, we'd like to acknowledge the Woiwurrung and Boonwurrung language groups of the Eastern Kulin Nation, on whose unceded lands we conduct the business of the university. So we respectfully acknowledge their elders past and present, and we acknowledge the traditional custodians and ancestors of the lands and waters across Australia where we conduct our business, including the Wadawurrung people of the Bellarine Peninsula, where I am currently coming to you from. Next slide. So RMIT is very committed to reconciliation and redefining its relationship in working and supporting Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander self-determination. So our aim is to embed principles of reconciliation in everything we do. Next slide. Before I talk about the entrepreneurship degree specifically, we want to discuss the new Bachelor of Business degree that RMIT is launching in 2022. Now, you might have noticed there's been a lot of changes in the world of business and work in general over the past 10 years. And in fact, many of these have been exacerbated or heightened since the pandemic. So we're very excited to introduce to you the new Bachelor of Business degree. Craig, could you play the video on the prior slide? Next slide now. So this new degree has been co-designed with industry partners, aimed really at the future of business, the future of work. So we don't have any more traditional lectures or exams now. We don't have people like me standing in a lecture theatre for an hour talking at you. The focus is much more on industry projects and real-world learning experiences, and finding a good balance of online learning and in the classroom learning. There's also a lot more flexibility to choose the majors or minors that reflect the kind of pathway that you want through university and the kind of work you'd like to do afterwards. Next slide, please. So the core courses that all students will do now are 4 foundational subjects in first year of the degree, which I'll discuss in a moment. And then you've got a lot of choice. You can major in, say, entrepreneurship or innovation and enterprise. You can do a combined major. You could major in both of those. You can do a major with a minor in something else like cybersecurity or blockchain-enabled businesses. Or you can really assemble your own degree based on the different courses that you're interested in and that reflect your aspirations after university. The program finishes with a capstone experience where students bring together everything they've learned in a kind of e-portfolio that they can share with employers in the future. Next slide. So let's have a look at what a pathway looks like through this degree. So in first year, you'll complete those first 4 business foundation courses along with other courses that form your major or minors. Then across year 2 and 3, you choose the path that suits you best. And in the end of your degree, you'll have that capstone to bring it all together. Next slide, please. And hi to those of you that have just joining us now. I'm Julian Waterslench. So now I'll talk about the entrepreneurship program specifically. This is one of the majors, of course, you can do. So entrepreneurship is about developing a new idea and bringing it into the world, usually through creating a new business venture. And that could be something highly ambitious like Tesla or SpaceX or even a Moderna or BioNTech. It could be a social enterprise. Many of you might know, for example, Who Gives a Crap, their toilet paper company that delivers and donates 50% of its profits to water projects. or it could just be something like a local cafe or bar or restaurant. So the focus of our degree is on building the skills, the experience, knowledge and connections that help you launch a new enterprise or bring something new into the world. But many of these skills are equally relevant if you're interested in developing a new product or service within an existing business, or just driving innovation in larger organizations in general. So you'll be studying things like the foundation or the processes of entrepreneurship, driving innovation in organizations, what I teach, entrepreneurship in global challenges like climate change or global pandemics, how entrepreneurial and innovation ecosystems work. That's the surrounding context which support a new entrepreneur, or new venture creation, the actual process of how to launch a business into the world. Next slide, please. So if you enroll in the new Bachelor degree and we're interested in taking the entrepreneurship major, here's what a pathway might look like for you. In the first year, you'll do those 4 foundational business courses. These are global business ecosystems, business decision making, business and society, and integrated perspectives on business problems, the ones you see in sort of yellowy orange there. Now, the dark blue here are the 8 entrepreneurship major courses that you take. You wouldn't have to take them all in first and second year. You could spread them out, but you'll see there the foundation of entrepreneurship, etc., all the way through to new venture creation. The other courses are really up to you. You might elect to take another major, like marketing, or a number of different minors. But at the end of your degree, you'll bring that all together in the ePortfolio capstone course. Next slide, please. So there's a number of different majors that you can take. Some of the ones that I've found interesting are a blockchain-enabled business, the cybersecurity, or even social impact. Next slide, please. And we have a whole range of new minors. There's everything in there from data insights to marketing to international logistics. So you can talk to us as you're going through your degree about what combinations of majors and minors or other electives might serve what you want to do best. Next slide, please. So the entry requirements, to talk specifics for the new Bachelor of Business, are an ATAR of 70 and a score in English of 30 for ALE or 25 for English other than ALE. For the Bachelor of Business Professional Practice, which includes a 4th year, we ask for an ATOT score of 80. Next slide, please. There are some guaranteed pathways into the degree as well, through either a Diploma of Business, a Diploma of IT, a Diploma of Logistics, or an Associate Degree in Business. Next slide. We'll say a little bit more about the traditional structure of the entrepreneurship degree. Next slide. So, yeah, now, so what this slide represents is before we created the new Bachelor that launches next year, we had a different business structure. If you're really interested in taking this one, you still can, but the last intake is for first semester of 2022. And so in the former structure, there's actually 8 foundational courses, and you can see them in first year there: prices and markets, introduction to management, marketing principles, etc. And then you'll spread your 8 entrepreneurship courses out over the rest of the program. Next slide, please. So the entry requirements to the older program, remember the final intake of that will be in first semester next year. That has an ATAR of 65 and the same scores for English and the same diploma pathways, incidentally. Next slide, please. So one of the things that most characterizes RMIT, I would say, are the industry connections. It's actually why I went to RMIT as a student, and it's at the heart of everything we do. Specifically in the entrepreneurship program, the course I teach, New Driving Innovation in Organizations, is what's called a work integrated learning program, of course, along with new venture creation, which Associate Professor Afreen Hook takes. And In driving innovation in organizations, students work with different companies or different organizations. I think I have about 35 different companies this semester with 120 different students on real-world design and innovation challenges that they're facing. The focus of new venture creation is launching a real startup out into the world. That's the primary focus, at least. Next slide, please. We also have some industry partners that work alongside the entire program, and here's our current ones. And students in my course, for example, are working with Amazon Web Services on cybersecurity projects. Many others are working with Australian Red Cross, and I'm sure Simon will speak to the partnership with Adobe. Next slide, please. So like I just said, much of our work involves performing real industry projects alongside industry partners, and that's only, we've lent into that in the new Bachelor. Next slide. One of the things I most recommend for students to get involved with at their time, across their time at RMIT, is a global exchange or internship opportunity. Now, clearly, we've been a little bit hampered by the pandemic, but we have excellent partnerships with a range of universities across the world. And in the entrepreneurship program, we have a particular partnership with Babson College in the United States, which is one of the best places to study entrepreneurship in the world. Next slide, please. At RMIT in general, there's also the Activator. The Activator is a bit like an accelerator program for startups. So if you have a specific idea that you'd like to work on outside of the formal courses, you can take it through the Activator and you'll be hooked up with new skills, with mentors from other entrepreneurs and industry partners, and there's even funding available, seed funding to do that. Next slide, please. So often parents or students ask, well, where can I go with a degree like this? Now, the first response is usually many of our students are interested in starting their own business, right? And launching a startup. Some of them come in with ambitious ideas, and the goal of our study and support is to help them bring that into the world, sometimes even before they've finished studying. But many of our students also go into industry. They work for major consultants, often with a focus on innovation. I've had students work for other technology startups straight out of university. We've had students enter Deloitte. Students, in fact, one of our alumni is running Startup Victoria at the moment. She's the CEO of that. If you go to the next slide, I think we have a few examples of the kinds of businesses that students have started. So Kate here began something called Kojo, which is a health-focused company. She was an older student from some time ago. Kojo is still running. I think they're doing health bars these days, so you can look at them online. Next slide. And Lyndon Gallia, to give you a sense of the breadth of focus, Lyndon focused more on a non-profit or socially focused opportunity. So he created Eat Up Australia, which focuses on providing free lunches to disadvantaged school children who'd otherwise go without. And this is an important point. Even if your aspiration is to do something in the social sector or create a traditional non-profit that might raise money and focus on its stakeholders or recipients, many of those processes in terms of finding the right problem, finding the right solution, finding investors to back your project are effectively entrepreneurial projects. Next slide. So let's talk a few details. The important dates for 2022, orientation week is the 21st to the 25th of February. Classes begin on the 28th of February, and the last day to enroll in semester 1 is the 7th of March. Next slide, please. I'd like to hand over now to my colleague, Simon Thornton, who will talk to you about the Bachelor of Innovation and Enterprise. Simon.
Thanks very much, Julian. Good afternoon, everybody. Dr. Simon Thornton. I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about the Innovation and Enterprise major program. This is a new program that's been started recently and very much a forerunner to a lot of the wider Bachelor of Business changes that we're making to our 3-year degrees. In particular, but it also has very good links back to the major and the program that Julian's just been explaining, in the fact that it takes, if you like, sort of the spirit of entrepreneurship and innovation, but applies it across a number of different sort of sectors, and very much is a sort of multi-subject, if you like, offering that we have available now. Next slide, please. Thank you. So as Julian's always explained, this is one of the 15 majors that it fits into. As you can see, it comes in the form of a choice, as Julian's explained. So it's possible to do 2 majors, or to do a combination of major and minors, or to do a number of minors. Next slide, please. And also in regards to that, it also comes in the form of a minor. Now, there are 35 minors in total. So I think we really are expanding on the kind of the breadth, the possibilities with regards to the new degree structure that we have at RMIT now. So we are giving back agency to students to be able to help and choose their own pathway through. I think one of the most important things to understand is that we don't expect students to know right now exactly what courses they want to take, what direction they want to choose for the next 3 or 4 years. It's important that they can work some of this out as they go along, and that's where the idea of giving you a choice as you go. You can choose a major block of 8 courses, you could choose a minor block of 4 courses, or you can kind of mix and match as you go. If you choose 2 majors, then that will reduce your overall choices that you have available after that. But again, that choice is something that you can make at the time, and whatever you feel is right for you. Next slide, please. Thank you. So in a very short explanation, this is what innovation and enterprise is. It's this multidiscipline, if you like, sort of approach to help you gain the skills and knowledge that you need to become the business development business professional of the future in a very rapidly changing world. And I think where it complements very nicely what Julian was explaining and talking about, and Julian is one of the fundamental academics and sort of starting academics within this program too, within this major too. So the synergy links are very, very strong. But if Julian's entrepreneurship is about or moving towards whereby you are going to start your own business, or you're going to be integral to the innovation function of an existing business, well, the innovation and enterprise major has a sort of wider overview than that. It takes the principles of entrepreneurship, but for example, it puts them into different contexts. We have social services as a context. We have blockchain as a context. We have robotics and remote sensing. We've got cybersecurity and safety. We've got managing global and remote teams, which is actually Julian's course. So we've got a very wide and different environment in which you can apply some of these entrepreneurial skills. Thank you. Next slide, please. So like as Julian did with the entrepreneurship, this is an example about how you could put this together. So like all of the students, you will come in, you will do your 4 foundation courses, which are a really good grounding in the knowledge and base that you now need. In the past, students have come in and they've done, for example, core courses in marketing, core courses in economics, and valuable though those lessons are, we feel that moving forward, it's far better to give students a sort of a more rounded approach to their foundational learning. So decision making, business in society, integrated perspectives, as Julian mentions, form your foundation courses. From then on, you can then choose your version of the major. In this case, the innovation and enterprise major. You choose from 4 what we call capability courses. So they are building on the foundation. So they're things like developing professionally, understanding organizations, critical analysis. And then you can then choose your project courses, of which there are sort of a 6 in total. So again, as I mentioned, blockchain, robotics. We've also got 2 legal courses in there. So the legal side of study can also be represented. And really giving you the flexibility to put together a major block of 8 courses that you feel is right for you. So even within a choice, you've also got more choice and more agency to understand and develop your learning as you go. So you could also then, if you wanted to, you could have 2 minors. In this example, you've got a minor in blockchain enabled business, and you've got a minor in the entrepreneurship course. As Julie mentioned, that could be the way around. You could be majoring in entrepreneurship, you could be minoring in innovation and enterprise, and you've also then got other university electives on top. Next slide, please. Other example whereby you decide to do the innovation enterprise plus another major. So in this case, we've selected the social impact major. Again, a lot of students are wanting to understand how they can have a sort of a social impact lens across all of their studies. So you could combine innovation and enterprise. Again, picking some choices, you might want to pick the social services choice within that major. And then on top of that, you've got more, if you like, sort of major choices within the social impact series of 8 courses, and then university electives on top of that. Thank you. Next slide, please. As Julian mentioned before, we work with a number of industry partners, some of which are now becoming program partners overall for the wider Bachelor of Business. In particular, for our major, we have a really good partnership with Adobe, global software manufacturer, have been producing software for decades. A lot of our students now within a digital, if you like, sort of learning environment, they're no longer just writing written assignments. There are digital applications, there's vlogs, there's infographics, there's a whole raft of videos, there's a whole raft in ways in which students can actually utilize something like the product suite of Adobe to be able to sort of produce their assignment work. In addition, the other one I want to single out is the Safety Commissioner. So we have choices within our major courses, which are cyber safety and cyber security applications. And we've actually got the Safety Commissioner working with us as part of the actual courses that are being produced. So they're part of the course design team to put those courses together. So just really an overview is that we are putting together a range of options for students to take that entrepreneurship lens, but apply it in a different context. Next slide, please. Thank you. I'm going to hand back to Afreen, I believe, for some questions and answers. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the session. My first question is actually for Jules. The question is, what are the similarities and differences between the entrepreneurship and enterprise and innovation majors? Jules? Jules, you're muted.
There, yeah. It had I think I might have been automatically muted. There we go. All right. I was just saying, great question. So the differences between the programs, and someone else asked in the anonymous chat there that I answered, do they work well together? The key difference I would say is in the entrepreneurship program, we're a bit more focused on the processes of how to launch your own startup, your own venture. In the Bachelor of Enterprise and Innovation, there's a bit more of a technology focus and a bit more of the general, how is the nature of work changing, sets you up as more of a generalist. However, having said that, they work very well together because in the program that Simon just shared with you, you have access to a lot of emerging technology courses, artificial intelligence, blockchain-enabled business, cybersecurity. And these are all great areas to be skilled in if you're thinking about launching your own business. I mean, these are the kind of startups that are needed and are in high demand. And of course, you can take one of the programs as a minor. So if you're also interested in, say, a minor in marketing or something else, you can design your pathway that way. Hopefully that answers the question. Afreen, I'll throw back to you.
Yeah, thank you. My next question is for Simon. The question is, what kind of industry projects can the students work on as part of these degrees?
Yeah, thank you, Afreen. That's a great question too. Look, there are a range of different ways in which students can engage with industry, and they can range from what we might refer to as a sort of light touch within in-class projects. So as Julian mentioned, he has a number of industry partner clients that he works with and partners, putting together industry challenges that can be in an in-class context. That can be, as I say, a relatively light touch. Moving on from that, we can move into sort of more, if you like, sort of direct contact. That might be in the form of assessed work. So there might be a project, a wider project or a challenge, whereby a group of students could answer real live, if you like, sort of questions and solve problems for industry partners. Moving on from that even further, we have the option through a range of different entrepreneurship, if you like, internship-based options to spend a few weeks or a few months or whole semesters or even longer within the right kind of context role for you. So students can do this either through sort of their choice of and use of electives. And really, it can be designed by you as you go along. As I said earlier, we don't want to sort of map out exactly for students what they must do at the very start. It may well be that through an intervention with regards to meeting an industry partner, albeit very slightly in a class project, that may open up an opportunity. And we see this often, that students meet industry partners, they do a little bit of work for them, there's a connection, the contact is made, and the student then goes on and does some work for that partner. The great thing about the new structure is we're allowing that to happen, and it can become part of your studies. You can pick up an elective, you can choose to do an internship at any time within those 3 or 4 years that you're studying. Thanks, Afreen.
Thank you, Simon. My next question is for Jules. The question is, what kind of work or jobs do students do after graduating from these courses?
Well, a whole variety. I actually have a lot of friends that graduated from the entrepreneurship degree, or people I met through research. So some of them have gone into technology startups. Like if people listening know what Yammer is, one of the graduates from our program was really drove Yammer, the enterprise social software in Australia before it was acquired by Microsoft. Another from that same year actually opened Kinfolk, which is a social enterprise cafe that had volunteer labour and donated all of their profits effectively. They were down on Burke Street. We've had students that go into large consultancies like Deloitte or PwC. We've had students that end up doing overseas development work in Cambodia. So if the critical thing with entrepreneurship is demonstrating your ability and sharing the sort of work you've done, demonstrating your ability to creatively problem solve and actually make things. So we have a lot of emphasis on building what's called minimum viable products. So these are like prototypes of products or services of the kind of assessments you'll be doing will capture and demonstrate the value of that through pitch decks or video pitches. And these are what we're finding increasingly employers are interested, not just in a CV with good results on it, academic results. They want to see that students and prospective job applicants can actually show them work they've completed, talk them through how they've solved problems, talk them through new ideas they have for businesses. So that's the focus of our course and our program, and we've found it's very effective for students getting new work. Afreen, there's another question that I saw that was published there that I could respond to if you like.
Yeah.
So someone's asked, is all learning face-to-face, and how is this offered if not via traditional lectures, which I thought I might say something about. So of course at the moment under the lockdowns and the pandemic, all learning is remote, but the model we've moved to, and this will likely reflect what a lot of workplaces do post-pandemic too, is that students used to be forced to come in to access information through the lectures. So if you had an hour lecture, usually most of that time someone would be talking and presenting information with maybe a few question and answer opportunities. We've found it's more effective to record high quality videos of that information and then spend the time we're together doing more practical work, workshops, collaborating on group projects, bringing industry partners in to have a Q&A session with. So the model going forward is what's called blended learning. You'll have access to all the information you need online, and that you can watch that or read that when is most convenient for you. It may not be that 3 o'clock on a Wednesday afternoon is the best time for you if you're to attend a lecture, for example. But when you come into class or when you come onto campus, we'll focus that time on interaction, on real practical work, and on sort of collaborative learning. Hopefully that answers your question. Afreen, I'll throw back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Jules. I have a question actually about studying on campus versus studying online. So Jules, would you be able to answer that? The question
Well, I think
was,
yeah.
yeah, how often will I study on campus versus studying online?
Yeah, I mean, I feel, Afreen, I just sort of answered that one. So at the moment, everything is online because of the Victorian mandates. Once we get beyond the current pandemic, most courses have, say, a 2-hour, 2 to 3 hour class on campus, and the lectures and the reading material you can access online. It used to be, say, if you had 3 contact hours, a standard way would be to have one of those hours as a lecture in a large room that you'd come into and see live, and then maybe 2 hours in a tutorial. Whereas what we've done now, we've moved to a model where that 1 hour lecture is usually delivered online in a video format, might even be broken up into a few different information, 20 to 15 to 20 minute information bites. And then that 2 hour chunk we'll dedicate to collaborative learning on campus. Thanks. Afreen.
Yeah, thank you, Jules. I have another question for you. It says, what sort of skills do entrepreneurs need to lead a successful future business?
Well, you could design a whole program about that. One of the critical ideas that characterize good entrepreneurs, especially in the early stage, is identifying opportunities, something called opportunity recognition. So perhaps the first thing you need to do is to be able to spot new possibilities for a new business. Now that might be, there's a new kind of technology coming through, something like blockchain, for example, that you say, wow, well, this could be used to solve this problem better, faster, or cheaper. And we've seen with the internet or with smartphones, a whole new range of ways of solving an older problem. Airbnb is an example, right? You used to ring up a hotel and book it. Now with Airbnb is a sort of digital platform, if you like, that has enabled people to rent out spare rooms in their houses or rent out a house. So that's the first one. Then, but the journey doesn't stop there. Skills in raising money. I mean, business isn't cheap, right? So you need to be able to convince investors that your idea, not only do you have a good idea, but you're the person or you have the team that can execute that idea. You need to convince smart people to work for you. So skills in being able to hire a team, identify what talent is. You need skills in being able to manage under highly uncertain conditions. When you work in a large organization, some things are uncertain, but a lot of the time it's a much more stable environment. The business or the organization exists, they have existing customers, there's existing revenue projections. When you're launching a new enterprise, none of those things are certain. So you need this ability to constantly read new information and adapt and change based on that. So if I were to characterize the best entrepreneurs or the skills they exhibit, it's this ability to pursue an idea tenaciously, not give up because it's very difficult, but also be highly adaptable and be able to use the buzzword pivot based on new information coming in, to change their assumptions, to change the nature of the product or service they thought they were going to launch, and sometimes even to change the user or the market that it's pointed to. So hopefully that gives you some insight into the kind of things that are important for entrepreneurs. Afreen, back to you.
Thank you, Julian. Simon, do you also want to add to this question in terms of learning online versus learning face-to-face in relation to the Bachelor of Innovation and Entrepreneurship?
Yeah, yes, of course. Thank you. Thank you very much, Afreen. Look, as Julian said, obviously right now we're having to sort of deliver everything online, and hence this open day is online too. But we do hope to get back to a situation whereby in the blended format, the information is made available. That may be digital, that may be chunked down into nice little bite-sized bits of learning that students can do while they're traveling, while they've got a spare 20 minutes or whatever. And then the actual learning, so we're replacing the old-fashioned lectures, as Julian said, with this idea that we're going to come together and make a discussion and give, again, students some agency in their own learning journey. So the online and the face-to-face will blend together nicely when we can get back into on campus, and hopefully the time that students spend on campus they feel is really valuable, because it's a time they come together to discuss ideas and solve problems, and maybe work for industry partners in that way, as opposed to just listening to either people like myself or Julian obviously convey the information. Important though that is, we can cover that in a better way. So there is a combination. Yeah. Thanks, Jeffrey.
Thank you, Simon. I have one more question for you. The question is, can you give us examples of how students solve problems for industry partners?
Yes, of course. Thanks, Afreen. Look. It's in a range of different ways, as I've mentioned before. One of the logos on one of the previous screens we showed was a company called Cappy, and one example I think about is when we did some work with our students and we linked into RMIT Activator that Julian signposted earlier. And Cappy came to us with a problem about a year ago and said, look, we've got a great local, if you like, a brand in the market. We'd like to take this brand forward, but we'd also like to do it in a very sustainable way. So we're giving you quite an open and wide brief to come up with a range of solutions, and we did this in small teams of students. How can we take our brand forward? How can we reach new markets, reach new demographics? And again, those demographics weren't necessarily clearly defined. There were some options within that. So students can look at how a brand like Cappy, which is a soft drink manufacturer, could move forward, but in a very sustainable way. So we had a range of different options that came back and solutions from the students, from packaging solutions to slight rebranding solutions to events or whatever. So really, it's great when we can get kind of broad and open-ended type challenges like that from an industry partner that says, well, look, this is who we are. This is what we'd like to do. What kind of solutions can you come up with? That's when students have to take the information that people like Julian give them in their lectures and then start to apply them. That's often when the magic happens, as we say. We're essentially in the business of helping young people that come to RMIT, improve their thinking, improve their knowledge, improve their applied learning of any particular subject. So that's when the magic can happen, when students have to take information from a recorded lecture or whatever and start to apply it to a real world problem and make the connection. And that's just one example. There are many, and there are lots of different versions happening all the time, and that's the great thing about RMIT. Thanks, Afreen.
Thank you, Simon. Julian, do you also want to make some comments about how students work on industry projects or solve real-life problems as part of the entrepreneurship program?
Yes, I'm very happy to. So this notion of problem-based learning, or learning through design challenges, challenges usually put forward by industry, is, I would say, it's a core part of what RMIT does in general. But it's a really big part of, I guess, both our programs, Simon. And so I'm glad you asked about it. For example, how does this work? At the moment, I mentioned Amazon Web Services working on a cybersecurity challenge. So students are put into groups, multi-disciplinary groups and that. So you might have some IT students working with some entrepreneurship students. And the challenge was, how do we raise the understanding the general level of education around cybersecurity issues for small and medium businesses in Victoria. Now, many of you might know this is a really big issue as we've moved more of our businesses and, in fact, our social interactions online. We've increased the possibility for cybersecurity attacks. And a lot of people, while some people are really skilled and knowledgeable about how to avoid that, many people aren't. So students are right now designing, at least students, the group in my course are designing a game, a bit like Duolingo, if you've ever played. So not a game, I guess it's a language learning app. But the principles they wanted to bring to this is, how do they develop a sort of learning-like game that business owners could play for 5 to 10 minutes that would help them identify what's a potential cybersecurity threat, like clicking on a dodgy link in an email, and what's the legitimate. Because the nature of cybersecurity is it changes, right? It changes day to day. So putting out a report and reading it, a week later it's obsolete. So you need something live and dynamic. That's one example. I mean, I have students working with museums and art galleries on what's the future of digital interactions. there, because this sector, think about it, museums, art galleries, libraries, etc., have been hit very hard by the pandemic, and it's unclear how much longer we're going to be in this situation, but also what the future of their offering looks like. I have students working with Bunnings, of all things. I have students working with Australia Post on how to make their one of their local branches more engaging, for how to reduce some of the friction and annoying aspects of visiting the local post office. So we have a whole variety of things. The critical thing I'd say is a lot of jobs, when you get on the ground, actually involve solving these sort of problems. They're solving this problem and then solving that problem and then solving the next one. And if you want to launch your own business, when I've interviewed entrepreneurs and researched the process with them, that's how they frame it. They say the first thing I needed to do was work out how to build the best website. Then the next thing I had to do was the problem of how to hire the best team, etc. And it really doesn't stop all the way up to, you know, launching a public company. So I think it's a useful way, this problem-based learning is a useful way to frame what we do in this program and what people do in the workplace. Afreen, I'll throw back to you.
Thanks, Julian. My final question to you. Why should students choose Bachelor of Business majoring in entrepreneurship?
Simon, maybe you take that first.
Yes, of course, I'd like to. Thanks, Julian. If we look at innovation and enterprise as an option, why would students choose that? As we've kind of already explained, they fit together quite nicely anyway, but I think the best, if you like, quick and summary explanation is, if you haven't quite worked out exactly what you want to do yet, but you think you'd like to be in the innovation space, you maybe might want to sort of do something in the future in regards to that, but you're not entirely sure as to sort of what the direction of that is, then you can use those principles of innovation, and you can look at a whole range of different areas that are technologically minded, they're digital, as we've mentioned, to things like blockchain, all the way across to you know, artificial intelligence, to, you know, to social impact. You know, it's as broad as that. So if you've not quite put it all together yet, but you'd like to be in that kind of space, then I think this is a major that offers you that wonderful opportunity. I'll throw back over to Julian. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. So I'd say there's two main reasons for choosing the entrepreneurship major, and we have kind of two cohorts of students that we often divide, or that make up our program. So the first is, if you are drawn, if you feel like an entrepreneur, or you're very drawn to launching your own startup, you don't want to go and work for somebody else, you want to build a company and manage that, this is the program for you. I mean, we're the main one in Australia really that do this. The second cohort is, if you're a bit more, as Simon said, if you're not quite sure yet, but you're interested in how new products or services come into the world. You don't necessarily know that you want to run a company, but you want to understand the process of innovation, of novelty, of how even large existing companies launch new products or change them. This is a really good course for you too, good program. The good thing is you don't actually have to choose between one or the other. I mean, you can take both of these, you can do one as a minor, and you can certainly, as we've said, build the degree structure that's right for you based on the right majors, minors, and other electives. So without further ado for today, I'd like to thank you all for listening to us and joining us, and we all look forward to welcoming many of you into the RMIT community, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend and what's left of it. Bye for now.